Hello everybody, my name is Barry Johns. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Studio Talk. Recently I did an overview of the Pulse 16 MADI version that I ordered to complement my RME Fireface UFX Plus to add more additional I/O to be able to incorporate all of my analog gear without having to do extra patching. You know, when I got out of my Pro Tools HDX rig and so got rid of all of that, and for the record, that is the reason I'm doing this complete transition right now, is I kind of got fed up with Avid's extortion policies and just ridiculously insane gouging of their customers for the price of using Pro Tools annually. It's just a complete ripoff, in my opinion, okay? And so if they went back to full perpetual and made it reasonable, I would probably go back. But anyway, back then I had a 24-channel D command in my desk back there. I'm going to kind of show you a little image of that kind of going back and forth as I'm talking right now, and you can see what was going on there. And so the D command only works with HD or HDX in Pro Tools. You can't use it with the regular native version. And so now Neutrik did just come out with a driver for it, but I tested that driver. I found it to be horrendous. They have so much work to do there. So if you're thinking you can use your D command as a normal controller for other DAWs, that check has not been mailed yet, okay? So now I hope they get it worked out because it is such a powerful controller. But anyway, I replaced that with an SSL UFX 8, all right? And so then I started looking, okay, how am I gonna reconfigure all of this to be able to make this work? Because what I really wanted to do was open up the space here in the studio and be able to get all of my rack gear out in front of me, okay? And so that way it's all within reach. I can stay in the sweet spot as I'm working, and it looks cool. So outside of that, I had an Argosy Series 90 desk. It was originally designed, I believe, for the Pro Control, okay? Of which I had before the D command. I had a 24-channel Pro Control, and then I replaced that with a 24-channel D command. And so that Pro Control surface actually fit perfectly in it. Well, the D command would work and look good, but it wasn't a custom fit for it, okay? But everything looked great in there, right? So obviously when I pull that out, I've got a hollow shell, as you can see in some of these pictures, kind of what I'm dealing with and everything. And so I'll talk about what I did to basically, I had to refabricate some side pieces to try to get it to match up, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Okay, here I am in front of my Argosy 90 series desk. Again, was originally made for the Pro Control, used for the D command, and now used for this. And it was originally designed to where it had two flanks of 19-inch rack units. It could be put on either side of it and get the 24-channel D command in there. But when the Pro Control took up a little bit more space, 16 channels of the D command compared to 24 channels of the Pro Control. And so for it to fit that, one of them had to be shrunken down to make that work. And I'll talk about what I did there and how I used that space creatively to be able to take advantage of that. But I only had one set of these completed, and it was full of rack gear. So the only other pieces I had were the other piece over here, okay, and that piece over there. Now you probably should have seen me pull up my my image of the thing behind me, but that piece over there, that is obviously narrower, and it's just big enough to fit my BAE rack in. That was installed in there, flush mounted with a custom-made rack device to be able to hold that in a small footprint. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about first is, okay, since you didn't have these panels, I called up Argosy and I asked them, how much would it cost you to ship me one section each, which include two side panels and the 19-inch rack rails installed on them? And it was about over $300 and something plus shipping. So I said, I can go to Lowe's and get a sheet of MDF for about $15 and pull out my router and make those myself. So that's what I did. So if you notice over here, okay, I'm pointing to this piece over here. I actually took that piece off that was attached to there. And basically what I did is I traced it with a pencil, right? So I laid the other piece down and I traced over it to kind of make a model of that particular side panel. So once I traced it around, Then I took a jigsaw and just barely cut just outside of that line. I didn't want to go over that line. I didn't want too close, but just on the outside of that line of where I was going to cut. And then, of course, then I take that piece and I put it on top of my original, the one that I'm modeling, making a clone of, put it over top of, put some clamps there and clamp that down. And then I trace that with a router, okay? So with a straight cut router bit, I can go down and I can just trace the piece below it, so it'll make an exact duplication of that. And so that's what I did here, here, and here. Now, you may say, Barry, you went this far, man, but why you got to leave that plain looking wood in there, that MDF? It doesn't look right. I agree with you. I agree with you. It doesn't look right, and I will fix that. But I want to make sure that I'm happy with the angle of this, because since now I can fabricate these things however I want, I could ultimately go back and redesign this however I want, okay, to be able to use this existing desk. So one of the questions I have here, you see where I've got the SSL UF8 mounted in right here. Now, I also have another space for it back over here that's left empty for when I buy the second one. That's where that's going to go. So that's why that's an empty space right now. So what I plan to do at some other point, once I make the final decision on how this is ultimately going to be laid out, then I'll go back in and painstakingly pull everything back out and then finish everything. In the meantime, I'll probably just take some black paint or something and put over that until I get around to that project. And then I can refabricate them, because it's very easy to laminate. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but laminating your own MDF or any type of surface really is actually very, very, very easy. You just need a sheet of laminate, Formica laminate. Then you need some contact cement, you need a brush, you need a roller to get that contact cement on there. Okay, you need some wood dowel sticks to stick in between. And then ultimately you put that contact cement on there, let it dry for 20 minutes, come back, should be a little bit tacky. Put you some pieces of stick on there so you can lay your piece of laminate over top of the sticks and get everything aligned properly. And once you get it aligned, you can start pulling out one stick at a time, and then get your heavy roller and start pressing that down, and then take a palm router and do a straight bit and trace around that, and you cut the edging off, bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. Very, very easy if you've never done that before. I do consider myself quite a handyman. I do just about all of the work around here on the house, okay? But speaking of the house, this house has been a complete disaster for the last 12 to 13 days. When I ordered that Pulse 16, I got it off Reverb. Well, the guy forgot to ship me the power supply, so I had everything reconfigured, everything ready to be wired, because I really had to wait for that unit to get here before I could really do anything. And so that was delayed. And then my son's wedding was last week, and so we had to fly back to Kentucky to go to my son's wedding. Didn't have to, wanted to, enjoyed it, had a great time. Congratulations, Eric and Samantha. But we had to go back to Kentucky for that wedding. And then obviously I came back here and I was slammed with work. So I've literally been a couple of weeks not doing any videos, not doing anything. And I killed myself over the last 2 days getting everything back to order. But I had cables, everything strung out everywhere. It's unbelievable. Now, what I did be able to free up, which I really like, was more space in here, especially considering I also do this channel in here and I can have some different camera angles. The two 19-inch rack units that I had over here, you're going to see that. I'll pull an image of that up here right shortly. That a lot of this was stored into. I pulled those out of here, and I'll save those out in the garage. If I ever need to come back to it or buy more gear like that, then I will. All right. Now, lastly, I could add a third SSL UFX8, and I may do that. If you notice right here, this is where that ends. Okay. And so that's just right at where that Ferrofish Pulse 16 is right here. So I would have to take these two rack units out and take this out and then be able to install the SSL UF8 and then relocate these somewhere else on here, okay? And I could do that by taking out this BAE rack right here and then doing what I did to that one over there and then put it right over here and get that flush mounted. One of the challenges with these Argosy series desks is all across the front section of it, it's pretty shallow, so you don't have a lot of depth. So you can only put something fairly narrow in it, which is why the UFX works perfectly here. There's just enough room for it. Now, one thing that was a pain in my butt on this is there's a steel rod beam that goes across the center of this to secure it and frame it up and everything. And so I really had to work around to find the right pieces of rack gear that I could get in there that wouldn't bump into that. And so that's what's kind of controlled by what's here. It's more the depth of the units and the particular location than anything else. So I also, lastly, I have a little cubby hole over here, which is a work in motion. I had about 8 to 10 inches of space left. And so ultimately I'm going to redesign all of that and put all of my hard drives, my laptop, and all that stuff in there. Maybe even put me a fancy cup holder in there so I don't spill anything on this like I have before. Okay, big mistake. All right. So anyway, I hope you find this interesting. And if you like the things I talk about on this channel, do me a favor, hit that like button, that subscribe button, and then that notification bell. So when you know I got a new video out. Come on, keep watching. I'm loving doing these videos, and I got more to come. Now, I will be doing an in-depth video on why I chose the Ferrofish Pulse 16 over some of the other comparable units out there that are also very, very, very compelling. Stay tuned for that video coming out real soon, okay? But until next time, hope all of you have a great day. Bye-bye.